welcome to Conversations with Reverend G. I am Reverend Grenetta Mason, aka Reverend G, and I'm here every Monday night live on WEMS Radio with conversations with guests from all walks of life with different perspectives, with different careers. And we come together and tell our stories, we share resources. We share things that we hope will support you in having the life that you want, in living your best life. We talk about life, we talk about love, and we talk about spirituality. And we talk about spirituality from a practical point of view. How does it support you in your everyday life? How does it support you right now when even now things are better, but there's still some uncertainty, but we've been through so much. So, how does spiritual practices and spirituality support you during those times and even now? I talk about the spiritual toolkit. And the spiritual toolkit is what practices are special for you. We all have different practices that work for us at different times. So, my toolkit may have things that your toolkit does not have. And it's been amazing to talk to people about the things that support them during times of struggle or when they need peace or when they need clarity. And I always talk about accessing that joy. So I'm here to support you in accessing joy and living your best life with grace and ease. You can find me every day on Facebook and on Instagram. I'm on Facebook as Reverend Grenetta Mason, and I'm on Instagram as Rev Grenetta. And I give inspirational messages every day to support you each day in living your life moment by moment. So today I am so excited to have Miss Tina Jackson as my guest. Tina is a retired educator, family to me. I've known her for so long, and I'm just so excited to have her here as a guest. Hey, Tina.
Hey, Grenetta, how are you?
I am doing great, great,
Good,
great.
good.
Happy to have you here today. Like I said, family, we've known each other for so many years.
Years and years and years, good years.
Good
And
years.
we know each other's family and
Yeah,
friends. So
yeah.
this is a pleasure. It's really a wonderful pleasure to be here.
Good. I am glad to have you here. So, I said you were a retired educator. Well, talk to us about, you could talk about what's happened since then, after retirement, and where you are today.
Okay, this is a good topic because this is where I am now. I
Mhm.
am now focusing on what I call the fourth quarter of my life.
Mm.
And I plan to be aggressively intentional about
Mm.
loving and caring for myself.
Mm.
Now,
I
I
like
learned,
that.
amen, I
Mhm.
learned how to love and care for everybody else in my life. All
Mhm.
the people I've dealt with at my work as an educator,
Mhm.
people in my home as a wife and a mother and a sister and a
Mhm.
daughter-in-law and an
Mhm.
auntie and a niece and
Mhm.
so on. And also people in all the churches that my husband and I have served in as pastor's wife and plus. I won't even name all the things I've been involved. So I've learned how to give myself away. I've learned
Mm.
in many, many ways. And no one ever taught me how to save any of the energy for myself.
Mm.
So during the life after 70, I'm 71.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is a really new thing.
Mhm.
And I'm learning how to, at this point, how to apply what I've learned in the first, second, and third quarters of
Mm.
my life to lead me to a big win in
Mm.
my fourth quarter.
I
Now
love
that,
it.
yeah, that big win
Mhm.
is a healthy mind, body, and soul.
Mhm.
And I thank God for your program, Conversations with Reverend G, because you really do show and help people, encourage people to access joy. And part of that is part of what I am trying to develop in my life now, because joy is an important thing. Having conversations with people that have been through what you might be going through, or you may have conversations with people who go through things that you can share with. Now, there's some challenges in
Yeah.
this fourth quarter. And to name a few things for me,
Mhm.
heart disease,
Mhm.
osteoarthritis,
Mhm.
chronic fatigue, sleep issues, communicating my needs to people around me, and
Mhm.
any foods and drinks that are laced with sugar and butter.
Mhm.
All those things are challenges in my life right now.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I, I wanted to make sure this was a good place for me to get a start. I'm beginning all over again. And
Mhm.
it's the most exciting part of my life because now I have wisdom that I didn't have when I first started out. I
Mhm.
have all kinds of, well, people like you that I know and love and care about, who I
Mhm.
can have conversations with to help me, lead me along the way. So I've had a lot of interesting things. Now, I want to share the first thing I'm working on is a healthy mind. And
Okay.
yeah, so I figured the first thing to start with would be continuing education classes, uh,
Mm.
which I live in Jacksonville, Florida, and there are several universities here, but the University of North Florida is very close to me,
Mhm.
and they have a special program uh, for seniors in continuing education. The classes are phenomenal. For
Mm.
example, I went to a class last week. I
Mhm.
wanted to know more about Alzheimer's disease,
Mhm.
and I learned so much in that class.
Mhm.
There was a lady that, well, a nurse led the class
Mhm.
and gave us the information that we needed. And then an added blessing was that there was a lady in the class who'd been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And she was able to explain to us some of the things that happened to her and how
Mm.
she felt about it. And everyone in the class was blessed
Yeah.
with it.
First-hand experience. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And
Mhm.
one of her main suggestions,
Mhm.
uh, when people ask her, how does she look so good and how does she seem to be behaving so well with with her issues, with her with her health issues,
Mhm.
and the biggest thing she says, I continue to learn. I
Mm.
continue to study things I want to know about. I don't limit myself. And we all learned a lot from her. So that's one of the things. Games and puzzles, I'm
Mhm.
doing more of that.
Mhm.
Reading.
Mhm.
The most recent book I'm starting on is Michelle Obama's book, The Light We
Mhm.
Carry. Oh my gosh, I
You
love that.
feel it? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, we
Mhm.
all carry light.
Mhm.
Light. And as we get older, sometimes that light starts to dim because we're tired. We don't know how to handle this part of our lives. So,
Mhm.
what you're doing is magnificent, is absolutely phenomenal. Now, so I'm getting my mind together and studying. I'm going to take another class very soon
Mhm.
about diet, uh,
Mhm.
getting my body together. I've
Mhm.
made a vow that I will take some classes on eating better, exercising, and I've had a recent sleep study done because I have. So I'm dealing with all of these challenges that have built up over the years.
Mhm.
The other part, of course, with the body is exercising, and you
Mhm.
have to really be intentional and you got to be aggressive
Yeah.
because everything will pull you down. The
Mhm.
last thing is my soul, my
Mhm.
spirit. And
Mhm.
what do I do with that? I've been in the church all my life, but now I'm 70, I'm seeing my friends go home. There people are dying left and right that I've known all my life. And
Mhm.
I'm just wondering, and many of them are ill, or they not many of them have had a good fourth quarter. So
Mhm.
I'm looking at their experiences, I'm talking with them. But a couple of the things I found that are very important are daily devotionals.
Mm,
You
mm,
know, feed your spirit like we feed our bodies. And it's
mm,
very important to meditate. It's very important to cultivate healthy relationships and friendships with people at this age, because many of our friends have gone on or they're someplace else, they've moved, and it's hard to develop new friendships. And with me in particular, that's one of my major challenges. As a pastor's wife, I have moved many, many, many times. But
mm,
time has been extremely different because we did move to a church where we already had a family.
mm,
So my challenges with helping people to understand who I am and making sure that I'm clear with them who I am and
mm,
what things I need from them,
mm,
making friends in a different way. And of course, the really last thing is being involved in social justice. I'm very active with all kinds of social justice issues, especially things that are concerned with children. I am in Delta Sigma Theta is my sorority,
mm,
and I've become involved with a group of teenagers. These are teenage young men, middle school and high school, and we are working with them. The thing that happened in Memphis,
mm.
well, there are lots of things that happened in Memphis, but the last thing with Mr. Nichols,
Yeah.
uh, we discussed that last week with a group of teenage boys, and it was phenomenal.
Mm,
Literally, they had many questions. We had two judges there.
mm,
We had one of the major police officers here in Jacksonville, and we had a prosecutor. And
mhm.
those young men asked wonderful questions. They wondered how to behave if they're stopped. Several of them have their driver's license. So I'm still involved, but I'm involved in ways that I choose that are important to
See.
build my spirit and my soul. So this to me is a gift from God.
Mm.
It's a gift, and I'm so happy that I can focus and still think and really share my light.
That I smile and I think about it because as a pastor's wife, right? Yeah. You become associated with like Reverend Jackson and Tina, and now we're talking about, well, who is Tina outside of that? Who
Yeah.
is Tina, right? You know?
Oh, I know. I know. All the things in my first, second, and third quarter are all related to my husband and mainly my family.
Mhm,
And I I'm an educator, which I love, but
mhm,
now that I'm retired, who am I?
mhm,
And how do I begin to build what I want to be as
mhm.
as my light shines in this fourth quarter?
Yeah, and I know, and as I think about it, you've been an educator for the three quarters, right? And the
That's
impact you made as an educator was phenomenal, right? And
that's
you
right.
look back to see, and you know for yourself the impact you made with the students, with as they grew old and they come back and they talk about who you were to them, and the whole thing is just as important at the same time recognizing how you didn't think about taking care of yourself, and even not from a place of or regret or any of that, because of who you were then
Right.
supporting you in who you get to be now, right? That's how I'm thinking about it, right? Because everything that
Exactly.
you did for everybody else, you get to now say, oh, wow, let me do all of that for me. It's time now for it to be about, and not even in a selfish way, because self-care is not selfish, right?
That's
And we
right.
have to say that all the time when we talk
That's right.
about it's about me, it's all about me, right? But and we have to do that because we get caught up. Like you name like five different responsibilities as parent, as wife, as sister, as
Yes.
all of that,
Yes.
that we can get lost in that. And I
Yes.
like that message too, because in the fourth quarter you're doing that. How about second quarter, right? I mean, we get the message across, to younger people, right?
That's right.
That you don't have to wait till fourth quarter as we're doing to start to think about self-care, to start thinking about as we support others, we can also support ourselves.
That's it.
Because second, third quarter, because then you get burnt out. And as you said, we lost, I mean, like you, it's like so many people. I think I laughed when you said that fourth quarter, and so many people around us are transitioning and moving on, and we're like, wow, did we think about fourth quarter like that, right? I like the way you're saying it too.
It's
Yeah.
right. I didn't, and of course, being in ministry with my husband, I've seen many transitions. Children, older people, middle-aged people. I mean, a lot of people. This is different. This is a lot different from that. It's related, but it's just a little bit different because now I'm in that place where
Mhm,
I've been counseling families and who
mhm,
have been in this place.
mhm,
So it's just like you said, all the things I've done in all 3 quarters have built on what I know I should be doing now. So it's all of it is like a puzzle that
mhm,
fits together. But it feels like in this part, the energy is different.
mhm,
Many of your friends are different. You at a different place in different ways, but you can still draw on what you did those other quarters now. And
mhm,
and I'm just excited about this. I'm much more excited than I thought I would be
mhm, mhm.
with, and so it's interesting.
Yeah. I bet it's interesting to just make that shift, to make
Mm-hmm.
the shift.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exciting, and in looking at it from an interesting, exciting place, we're support you. And I say, like, just doing it, just embracing it. And you said something, I love that you said intentional. We have to be intentional about
That's
things.
right.
And
That
when
is
you were talking about the exercise, we say, oh, we're going to walk and we're going to do this, but we really have to be intentional about it,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Or it's just something that we say we'll do, right? Um,
right.
I work with the leadership teams where I do, we call them letter of agreements, where we set goals for 90 days, right? And then we set
Oh,
these goals that we want to reach within 90 days. And the interesting thing that I've seen is by writing them down, they just start to happen, right?
two thumbs up.
you
Two
know
thumbs
what
up.
I'm saying?
That is one thing that I do is to make sure I write my goals. And as I do that, it's like you said, it's easier. It's easier. So what's happening to many of us in this fourth quarter, I see a lot of people who are floundering and who are having a lot of difficulty with it. But if you break it down, you do the steps one step at a time, and when you fall back, you just get back up, dust yourself off, get started again. My sister and I were speaking to each other yesterday, and one of the things that we talked about, she said, Tina, this is different. She said, this is different. She had just got a diagnosis that wasn't very good, and she's having a lot of problems walking, uh, moving, a lot of pain just walking from one place to the other. Something about her lymph nodes. And one of the things she and I discussed how important it was to choose good physicians and
Mm,
physicians that you trust in this. It's always good, but in this part of our lives, it's extremely important to know people, ask people. It's good to have friends.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
just like you said, accessing your joy, you have to access good health care. You have to talk
Access all your resources that are available.
all of your resources
Mhm,
together. So you can't just shut yourself away uh,
mhm,
in a place. And
mhm,
then last week I met a new person that I didn't know,
mhm,
and another person that has dementia or Alzheimer's, and she is my age.
mhm,
And she looked at me and she said, we had just met, She says, I cannot believe that this is happening to me. I cannot believe this is happening to me. So all kinds of things are coming to me, and I'm processing them through you, through all the other people that I meet and know. And so I'll be a support for her. We'll get to know each other and spend time with each other. And I've already shared um, all of the information I received from the University of North Florida, and it really helped her to understand it would be wonderful if she would reach out to the nurse that did the lecture for us. So I'm still teaching in a
Yeah,
way.
and I was saying you're
And
teaching and you're
yeah,
sharing. You're still out there teaching,
mhm,
sharing, educating, being that person, that people can come to. That
yes,
that she was able to even say that to you was a
that's true.
blessing, right?
That
That she was able to
that is
find that space where she could just say, wow, I really can't believe this,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So that says a lot about what you created for her. And I'm sure it'll be a great, relationship for you
yeah.
to be with her, for you to learn what you learn. And for me, I think for me right now, it's about
Mm,
staying present,
yep, in the moment.
choosing from now, right? Choosing what from today,
That's
because I say in this moment, all is well. In this moment, all is well. If
that's
anything, I would be worried about something that happened yesterday or something that has not happened yet, right?
yes, yeah,
But if I can practice, that's what I'm practicing, staying in this moment, all is well, because I'm talking to you right now,
that's
so all is well,
all
right?
well.
And
Yes,
practicing just staying present.
yeah,
We will have less anxiety, less stress, less worry, right?
yeah.
As
Mm,
you said, I think about mind, body, and spirit, right?
that's
Those are
it.
the three
That's
focuses, right?
that,
Mind, body, and spirit.
yeah.
Um, and body part, I do my exercising, I walk. I mean, not as much as before, because during COVID, I don't think I felt like my legs gave out or something,
Yeah,
right? Because I didn't do as much moving as
yeah.
I did prior. And being in the house for 3 years, working from the computer, just
Mm,
sitting, you really have to be intentional,
you do.
very
You
intentional
really do.
about getting up, about moving, about doing some type of movement for the body, or you will feel it. Because I got back out there and started going to work. Now I go to work and I'm like, whoa.
I know. COVID was a traumatic experience for everybody. And that any kind of trauma, once you start coming out of it, really takes intentionality. I mean, it takes you being aggressive. It takes you, getting up and saying, I'm going to do this. Maybe not the same way I did it before, but I'm going to do this. I'm coming through this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's important. That's important. And you
Uh,
can also so much. I like the example you gave of people setting limits and making lists. It's extremely important. I know some people in the class that we took on dementia. One of the things that she said, even if you don't have dementia, said those little sticky notes, making yourself a list of what to do during the day just helps you to focus and helps you to be intentional about what you're doing. There's not anything wrong with that at all. And
but
I
the
know
reality of it, though, is I forget, right? At this point.
that's it. Yeah, don't have to have dementia to forget.
You don't have to have dementia
That's
at this
right.
point when you're
One,
like, is that a
that's
senior moment? They call it a senior moment, but it's like you
that's
get up
right.
and you're in the room and you're like, well, why am I here?
That's
Right?
that's right.
You have to, so it's interesting when I say
I
it's a reality, right?
That, that's it. And Granetta, I was speaking with one of my very good friends, and she was concerned about dementia. And her doctor told her something very interesting that I'll be happy to share with you. She shared with me. And he told her, as you age, he didn't refer to it as a fourth quarter as we're doing now,
Mhm.
but he said, especially after over 70, he
Mhm.
said, one of the things is you have to remember you have lots and lots of information that you gathered over the years. So a lot of that forgetfulness or is retrieval. It takes
Mm,
longer for
because
us
it's so much.
now to retrieve. So it
Mm.
may take a few minutes, it may take a day, it may take, but it may come,
Make
it
it
will,
back. No, it does. So all you have to do is retrace your steps, right?
it,
No, it's still
it
at the
may take a
point
little
where,
time, but it's there.
yeah, where you go back and say, oh, that's what I was.
That's it. That's it. And it's there. It's just we've got to learn that we grow and we become different. We're children first, and then we're teenagers, and then we are young adults, and then we are adults and middle age, and then now we are in the fourth quarter. So
Mhm.
stuff is not quite the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm doing this new training to become a mental fitness coach,
Oh my.
and it's about positive intelligence. And
Positive intelligence.
positive intelligence, and it's talking about mental fitness, and the whole mental fitness part is working with your brain to be using more of the positive side than the negative side, and
Okay.
actually physically changing your brain to so that you focus more on the positive side, like the neuroplasticity and the neurons, all that changes with these, we call them PQ positive exercises, which are
Hmm.
2 5 minute or 12-minute little meditations, or
Okay.
two or little, like we do like sound, like what's the closest sound, but it's like a 2-minute moment to pause.
Oh, I
What
love
I like
that.
about it is I meditate in the mornings, but in the middle of the day, if I'm having a moment and my boss is in my face, right, I could do a PQ rep right then
Hmm.
and shift in that moment, right?
Wow.
I've seen that it has shifted my relationship with my husband, my relationships at
Mhm.
work. The
Wow.
main thing about it, though, is about you, though. It's focusing on, we all have a judge, we all have saboteurs. So what it is how to intercept the judge and the saboteurs that continuously work on us. And in intercepting them, then we gather these sage powers, they call it. And the sage powers are
Hmm.
empathy, right? Empathize, activate, innervate, right? So when you find yourself um, building these muscles, PQ muscles, we're
Hmm.
calling them, right? And it's the same like if you're building muscle in the gym, we're doing these repetitive 2 to 5 minute meditations, right? These repetitive
Wow.
practices to build our mental fitness.
Hmm.
So that, as we talk about, we're always learning and doing new things and moving. That's the new movement I'm on, is
Wow.
focusing on positive intelligence and mental fitness.
Hmm.
And I find this very appropriate with so many people having mental breakdowns, and mental health is a
That's
huge
right.
issue throughout everywhere we go. We're talking about mental health.
Hmm.
So rather than talk about mental health, we talk about mental fitness. So it has a different ring. If I come to you, I don't want to talk about your mental health. I want to talk about your mental fitness.
That's great.
It's a different feeling, right? Because it feels like, yes, let's get this together. There's some room here to
Ah.
improve from that. So that part I'm working on, for my mental, right? So, and it's fabulous. So whenever I find something that's great, I'll sell it to the world. I'll tell everybody positive intelligence, right?
Well, I will buy positive intelligence. So you have to tell me more about
I will
that.
tell you more. It's such a powerful way. And what I
Wow.
love is you focus on yourself. And in doing that, then you treat others great, right? And
Right.
how we
That's
talk
it.
about
Mm.
You know, as you talked about how you served others and you did all of that, but that came from who you are too, though. You have all of that in order to be able to give it all out. You
Yes.
had it within you,
Yes.
right, to
Yes.
give that. And
Yes.
now it feels like recognizing, okay, was that on automatic? Or it was
Mm.
that really who I am, right? And how do I step into now? And I think it feels like
Mm.
I want to do what I want to when I want to, based on what I'm feeling and not being obligated to what
Yes.
other people expect of me, and
Right.
that way. So I'm excited for the fourth quarter journey in the way that you're approaching it,
Mm.
right? And I'm excited for you because I feel that I've always been both, right? I've been like over
Uh,
here doing right?
yeah.
Supporting people, taking care of myself.
Yeah.
And from I think when I first started, I was in corporate America for a long time, right?
Mm.
Banking systems, like
Mm.
real, like in there every day, on call all weekend kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And then I shifted from that and I went into like a wellness where we were doing wellness retreats, mind,
Mm.
body, and spirit. So that
Mhm.
was the real shift in understanding how important it is for self care.
Yes.
So I'm really excited that we talk about what it means to take care of yourself. It's like they say, put your mask on first and then go take care of people.
Okay.
You know what would be interesting, Tina? Is I know you're a pastor's wife, but talk about your spiritual journey and how you've evolved over time.
Okay. Interesting. Um, my spiritual journey started when I mean, as far back as uh, preschool, literally, and kindergarten, because my pastor's wife was my kindergarten teacher.
Mm.
Growing up in Roanoke, Mrs. Hunter, and I mean, I loved her dearly, and all of the people I grew up with in my neighborhood, we went to the same church, Jerusalem Baptist Church in
Mm.
Roanoke, and so Reverend Hunter was almost like a grandfather image,
Mm.
father grandfather image, and they took care of us. And so I grew up in a real cocoon of love in the church, going to Bible study and church events from a little girl on in the choirs. And so I had a very solid um, growth in my spiritual life from a little girl up, and I thank God for that, and my mom and my dad, and my aunts, uncles who encouraged that, and who also attended. I mean, we all attended the same church, and so we still my family's still in that church. So I started off with a very strong belief that God is in control of my life. And from the very beginning, I was baptized at about 9 or 10. Reverend Hunter baptized me. I mean, he was at all the important parts of my life. And so I grew up with a very healthy love um, for God and the community, my church community. Um, I still attend that church when I go home.
Mm-hmm.
There are still people there who mentored me, and it all feels very good. Um, there's one piece in that growth that's a little hiccup, but I pray for that. Um, the church is having some issues right now, but
Mm-hmm.
all churches do. At
Right.
some point, they're looking for a new pastor, and it's very difficult for them to find. So I'm, still praying with them. But moving on right along, I grew up in Bible study, not just at church, but at my school.
Mm, okay.
Middle school, high school, we had Bible, we literally had Bible club. And
Mm.
so I always kept a very strong my ties with God through all parts of my life from a little girl up. It's just been a blessing. And then ended up marrying a minister was just the icing on the cake.
Mm.
So uh, that strength that God has given me over the years and that we share, the relationship we share is very precious to me. And
Mhm.
really led me into teaching. Now, I was either going to be a nurse or I was going to be, um, well, I thought about nurse was my very serious thing. I had not thought about teaching,
Mhm.
but I did pray about that, and I did was a candy striper. I don't know if you know what that is.
Yeah, I know what that is, right?
Candy. I was a candy striper. The last year in high school, after the 12th grade, that's what I did for the summer because I just knew that's what God was. I
Mhm.
love people. And I always want to help people. And I cried every day
Mhm.
because they put me in the rehab center with people, and I just fell in love with everybody, and everybody had issues, and I was just completely exhausted by
Mhm.
the end. I said, God, we got to figure out another place for me. I said, this is not. So, so then I took a position, a part-time position at a summer camp,
Mhm.
um, where I was a counselor for children who had issues with uh,
Mm.
learning disabilities. I cannot tell. God is so good because He answered that prayer. He put me in the right place.
Mhm.
I knew the first week that I
Mhm.
started working with those children that this was where God
Mhm.
wanted me to be. I enjoyed helping them. I enjoyed making them feel like who they really were. They were giants.
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
were wonderful people. And all
Mhm.
of that was God leading me, through this. All
Mhm.
you have to do is ask Him.
Mm.
I mean, that's the kind of relationship that I've had, thank God, all my life.
Mhm.
Knowing that God exists,
Mhm.
that He walks beside us
Mhm.
day to day,
Mhm.
and we limit God a lot more than what we should. And so I'm working on that as I'm in other churches and talking with teenagers
Mhm.
on those kinds of things. So yeah, I have in being a pastor's wife for me is was really nothing but an extra blessing. It was,
Because I was going to ask you about,
yes,
a pastor's wife. We have these images of what that looks like and what that is. What were some, I would say, advantages and challenges of being
yeah.
a pastor's wife?
Well, I'm going to tell you this quick story, and you'll see. I'll get started with that. Um,
Okay.
at at Mississippi Boulevard, church. Can we say this on?
Yeah,
Yes, we can say
yeah.
that because we both were at that church when
You were at
that's
that church,
yeah.
right? Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
And you will attest to I was not the typical pastor's wife.
Right.
Every time, I mean literally, almost every time someone would come to visit the church and they would look for the pastor's wife, they always chose a lady, I won't say her name because I love her to death, but
Mhm.
she always looked like
The
the pastor's
pastor's
wife.
wife.
She always had on a hat and
Mm,
heels.
mm,
I'm teaching Sunday school. I'm on the floor with the children. I come up to church and I may not have heels on. I may have flats, but
mhm.
I'm having a ball and I'm singing most of the time with the choir. So
Yep.
I'm involved in that. So I didn't always fit the mold of
Mhm.
what the looks, what you should look like, but I certainly did fit the mold for
Mhm.
what I believe a pastor's wife should be. And I know my love for children really stemmed that because I was always a part of Sunday school. Now,
Mhm.
the thing that was a challenge, however, was that there was very little private time uh,
Mhm.
for my husband and myself
Mhm.
and even our son. I
Mhm.
mean, we had a large church, smaller church is a little bit easier. We started off, and then there in Memphis, the church was, I mean, it grew to over 8,000 people, and
Yeah.
it was crazy. I mean, we did good, but it felt like there was no time at all for
Mm-hmm.
me to really do some stuff that I might have wanted to do, on my own. So it was a lot. It was a lot. And it was, there weren't very many people teaching you what to do. Uh,
There are no role models or nobody
no,
saying this is how it should be, right?
no. And if you, um, we had some relationships, of course, with other pastors and their wives, and all of us. We should have formed a group or something because all of us
Mm-hmm.
had the same issues.
Mm-hmm.
Learning how to be with our children. For example, my son. Once I was at the church, I was there because I worked at the church a lot, and so I was there many times in the evenings. And so if I was there and my husband was there, our son was also there. And one time, one of the members said, "Tina, maybe you should take off from this couple of days and take your son home so that he could do some other things instead of being at church." But those are the kinds of challenges because you're doing what you want to do, but
Mm-hmm.
energy and time it takes. But I have to say, the ability to spread love to people in a honest way
Mm-hmm.
uh, trumps everything.
Yeah.
And
Everything.
I have such good relationships with
Mm-hmm.
people at all of the churches where we've been assigned. So I mean, people who have shown me light that I didn't know existed. People um, that are in situations that are unbelievable and watched what God could do in that situation, and I could help. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You could
yeah,
support.
I have
Mm,
a special love and sense for elderly people and for children.
right.
That
When you mentioned the youth, what I thought about is you're currently, you say you were working with a group of youth.
yes,
Um, and then let's say 5 years ago or whatever, what are some of the differences? Because the world changed, right? And
yes,
since
yeah,
2020 to now, it's a whole different thing. Have you, as you talk to youth, have you been able to identify some of the differences, or is there a different type of support that they would need now?
yep, yep. And the one that stands out because this is the latest thing that, um, and this is in several churches, and this dealing with we were we were in several things. I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
figure out the right one to the one to share that might be best. I think I will tell you the most recent thing. I have a niece who I love dearly. She's in Roanoke in the church where I grew up. And,
Mm-hmm.
and it's an older church, of course, and a small congregation. She was born in that church, baptized in that church, and um, the relatives are in that church and friends are there. And so her senior year in high school, um, she was honest about coming out, that she did not feel like the female girl that she was,
Mm-hmm.
born as. And the thing that happened, to make a long story short, she could not go back to that church again.
Mm-hmm.
And now that, to me, God made everybody,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. And I think whether we understand it or not, as long as nobody is hurting someone else, we should
Embrace.
everybody close. There should be learnings and programs in our churches to reach out to everybody. And that hurt that, and I've seen it happen in other congregations.
Right, yeah, because I think about the church has always been so against that, so against, so
We need
like, no, 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 that what's the shift? How do they now start to embrace
to embrace.
It was so in air, and they embedded it so deeply in the Bible and so deeply
Yes,
into
yes, yes.
the religious core, right? That
That's right. That's right.
how do you come out of that? And what you said is key. Love. Everybody is
That's it.
worthy. Everybody is God's child. God is present everywhere. We say that all the time. How do we say he's not present in this instance or
That's
in that instance? You know?
That's my biggie. That's my biggie. That's one I'm working on. And so now she's not in the church anymore.
Mhm.
Um, she left the city and she is in another city and in college, thank goodness, but in another city. But I'm gonna tell you what, she is a precious soul.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that's I didn't know what
And
I
the thing is seeing that precious soul aside from all the other things is what we get to practice doing because we throw labels on people. We make them all these things, but like a child of God, as we say. And how do we get to see people in that form as a human living this experience as we are living,
thank
right?
you. Thank
And
you.
appreciate who they are for
That's a
who
good
they are.
That's a good way to explain that and to say that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's one of the challenges. The other one is just helping people move along. That's a challenge. I've always taught Sunday school, and I love teaching Sunday school, and I always teach love. I
Mhm.
always teach love. I don't care what grade level I'm teaching,
Mhm.
but the challenges are what people may bring that's not love and not
Mhm.
understanding. That's a big challenge. So how do you
Mhm.
deal with, like you said, how are we preparing our churches to answer questions we don't understand with love and not
And the youth are exiting the church because I'm talking to a lot of people about
yeah.
how, and last week though we had a conversation too with
Mhm.
Paulette, and she was saying she runs her youth at her church. One thing she said though is that youth have always been, when they turn 13 or so, it's always been church, an issue around spirituality and church and keeping them engaged
Mhm.
in church. For us, we just had to go, right?
No choice. No choice. We lived at church. Yes.
Now there's the choice, there's a difference, and even with going to church online, there's a whole new thing going on, right? In the way we operate in the world, in the way we communicate.
That's right.
So it's like with the youth and church, we have to out there, we got to do some drastic things, and everybody that I talk to, it's like meet them where we are. So we
That,
have to meet the LGBT community where
that,
they are,
that,
right? We
that-
have to
we
meet
have
these
to.
youth where they are if we want to impart this great wisdom we think we have, right?
The love
But
we
love
all
is
need.
the key, yeah. And even as I talk to young parents about what they're teaching their kids, there it's not religion, right? It's a lot about, and the basis is love and humanity and how you treat people and have respect for people.
All people.
Yes, all people. And I think that is a great base. And that's what Christianity is about, love, right? The basis of it is all of that. But we get
Yes.
so caught up in the doctrines, in how it's presented. I think it's
Hmm.
really the presentation
Hmm. The
of,
bottom line is always love.
yeah, the
You
bottom
deal with,
line.
you may not you understand them. There are lots of people we don't understand. There are lots of things we don't understand. But if you can come out of whatever situation and you can love everybody, because God made us all and He didn't make any mistakes.
No.
So if we can do that, I think it would change the whole world.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I just think
Absolutely.
this is a test for us, and we're failing it
Mhm,
in many ways.
mhm.
So I think that would be a really big. I think that is a big issue in churches all over. Yeah.
The biggest, yeah, two
Yes. Yes.
big issues will people come back to the church and
Wow.
build them up in person, where you get that. And the options, though, I could watch three different ministers on the TV,
I
right?
was say that on Sunday.
On Sunday, yeah.
Yes.
And
And you can take communion at home.
you
You
can
know,
take
you
communion at home, but it's the community, though. See, the thing that people
can miss,
love is community and
and we can,
being in community.
yeah,
So I don't think it's totally lost because people want to be with each other,
that's
right? And
that's
so, how do we say the church is that place? Come, we can have community
mhm,
here. We're open, we're loving. This is your community. And that's how it was for us. We did everything in the church,
that's
right?
right. And all people were welcome, even the gangs in the city. That was
Everything.
another that was another piece that I remember so distinctly, that one of our youth ministers um, invited two different gangs to the church, and we had to have police presence there, but they all got along.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
all got along, and they not just one night, but many evenings that they met, at our church. And I learned that was a learning for me.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
That people are looking for community.
it's right.
And
A community that's intentionally accepting. I mean,
exactly,
it has to be anything that's important has to be intentional.
exactly, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a community where people can feel like they belong, right?
Yeah.
And that
Yes.
they're a part of it. I have my momentum community. It's a leadership community that I love, right?
Oh,
And it's really nice to be in community,
mm,
right? With
it is.
like-minded people who think like you do, people you can go to. And what I love about momentum is that we're for each other, you know?
Mm,
Everybody is like, what's your goal? We guide you. How can we support you? So you're in that kind of environment where
it,
everybody is doing their purpose, right? And it's about us and community. So we're out sharing, we're raising money, we're
mm,
donating, we're
mm,
supporting. So it's really been a positive. And I know that people crave community because as we looked at COVID with the isolation that happened, caused a lot of people a lot of anxiety. Think about the single people who their only
I know.
source was at work.
I
And
know.
then they became isolated,
That's
alone
right.
in the house, and only on the Zoom. After a while, the Zoom is just too incredible, right? But
Yep. Yep.
that caused a lot for people,
Yeah.
right?
That-
And so now there's a whole healing that has to go
right.
on, right? And what does that healing look like for a community that was just traumatized, right?
It's interesting. What are we doing?
Yeah.
You wonder what, and some people, some places are doing a very good job of it, but it's important to heal that 2 years, 2.5 years. It took out a lot.
Yeah, it took
Yeah.
it took a lot. And on top of that, all the police brutality and the killings, and then we went back to
No,
Martin Luther King Day. I was in Memphis when Martin Luther King was there, right? And that whole bit, I realized that I never grieved for that moment
I
because
know.
that when that trauma came this time, I found myself crying, right?
That
Literally, right? It was the
you
first
couldn't.
time I acknowledged that the whole trauma of it
Yeah,
all.
yeah, and it is deep.
Yeah,
It is deep. It's oof. Words don't even fit.
describe. Yeah, it's
Uh,
like
the
yeah,
emotion that you feel when you the video. I almost wish, but I guess we all needed to see the videos. We needed
yeah,
to see the
mm,
the hatred and it's just so much that we need to do. We
yeah.
have to be accepting of people so they can learn what love is really like.
Mm, mm,
So
mm.
it's Grenetta, we're in a
Tough
we're
time. Mm,
yeah,
mm.
culture. cultural place, but there are all kinds of lights of hope.
Yes, all kinds of
I've
lights of
just
hope, right?
learned two things listening to
Mhm,
you today that I'm going
mhm.
to ask you more about.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And that's why we come together to
yeah,
talk and share and to support others and just let people know there is that light of hope, as you said, right? Do
that's
you
right.
have that? And like with me, I am always about laughter and joy and fun. So why access that? Because it's there. And
Yeah,
I get that we spiral into negativity and we spiral into these places where accessing that little bit of joy can be hard. But
yeah.
what I say is, you know how if you think one negative thought, you got 10 other ones? If you could sneak one positive thought in there at any moment,
It can take over. It can take
that
over.
was, yeah, yeah, and it's just being able to, as you spiral into all that negativity, to try to
Yes,
just flip it. Like, what is
yeah,
one positive thing? And that's a practice.
that's right.
That's what we talk about. I talk about practice and I talk about spiritual practices and I talk
Mhm.
about the spiritual toolkit because what's handy for you? What do you go to? I love gospel music. I sing gospel music every single day. It does something to my soul, right? And I don't necessarily also like all the words every time, right? But even
It's
it's
what's inside. Yes, yes.
yeah, so the spiritual toolkit. What would be your top practices in your spiritual toolkit, Tina?
Well, right now, the one of the most important things, I start the day off with reading a meditation.
Mm,
And I change up over the years. So I've used different daily word. I mean, I've used a lot of different ones,
mm,
but that's extremely important because it sets a tone.
mhm, mhm,
It sets your focus, for the day. So I think more than anything, that is extremely important to do as a spiritual practice. I also think that getting together, which is something that I lack right now, but I
mhm,
think it's extremely important that you need to get together with like spirit, other people,
mhm,
like spirits, and discuss what is going on in the world, what's going on in your
mhm,
life. I
mhm,
have not found a group quite like that here in Jacksonville. We
mhm,
are still looking for
mhm,
that. At most of the churches where we were, there were groups like that easily. So as far as
mhm,
spiritual practice, that's. One other thing a therapist told me once, who was also a minister,
mhm,
um, and I was going through a lot of stress, and she said to me, um, Tina, she said, want, first thing I want you to start doing is when you first wake up in the morning, you say to yourself, then you ask God, what is mine to do today?
mm,
Because she realized that I was doing too much.
mm,
So I think it's a good practice if you stop and think, okay, I can't do everything that I want to do today. But
mm,
what is mine? What is the closest to my heart? That changed my life. Is
mm,
give yourself time at the beginning of the day to say, okay, I got 25,000 things to do. But what is it that my heart really needs to do?
mm,
And so that happened maybe a little 25 years ago, and I've been doing that every morning. Sometimes I
mhm,
don't do so well. I don't
mhm,
follow through,
mhm,
but I'm doing better and better as I get it, and it helps so very much. And then
mhm,
being part of a Bible study,
mhm.
oh, if I could just um, I just have not found that here yet. I haven't
Mm.
so that
That's interesting. We created our own Bible study. It's Patrick,
yeah.
Doretha,
Oh,
Jasmine, Patrick,
the
Doretha,
Zoom.
It's a Zoom. Yep.
Oh,
Patrick, Doretha, Jasmine, and a couple other Patrick's people from
okay,
church.
okay,
Right. So every Wednesday we get together and we do Bible study. Right now we did we kind of look at what the church is doing and kind of
Oh,
follow. Right now, we're looking at
yes.
Colossians because that's what
Well, guess
at
what?
the
So that's good.
tournament.
That's good.
Yeah, so we use
Yeah.
that along with our meeting, and we go through, and it's been really powerful. And the way I say powerful is because we get to really examine the word for how it impacts us today,
There you go.
right?
There you
You
go.
get to look at it from the relevance to us today. And if we're saying this wisdom text shows us how to live, then we looking in there. So how do we live, right?
Right. That's
And so it's been really, really good. Patrick's
okay.
leading us, and he's doing a fabulous job, right?
Okay.
And I'm
Okay.
really excited for him because he's so into it, right?
I I'll have to join you. I'll have to join
Yeah,
you
I'll
sometime.
tell him to send you to come and check
Please.
us out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really, really good, and you're right. Because I studied all religion, so I can
Yeah.
appreciate all of them,
Yeah.
right?
I love it. Yes.
And I can, and even in studying all of them, I've come to appreciate Christianity even more,
Even yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
From the perspective of it's a religion with doctrines and rituals, and looking at it from that perspective, as the same way is Judaism is a religion with
That's right.
all of its ways, and
That's
no one is better than the other. We become
right.
very exclusive
I
in
know, and people feel threatened by other people's
religion.
practices.
Yeah,
It's
no need. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. I
yeah,
don't know what's gonna become of, but it's gonna be all right
yeah,
because God has got all of this in control, and
exactly.
and just the fact that we know
Hmm.
what's happening and we're stepping up, it's going to make a difference.
Right.
It's going to make a difference. So yeah, that's
And it's like how we live our lives at this point during
mm,
this time, and just being our best self and doing the best we can.
that's it.
Yeah.
That is it. This is
And
awesome.
yeah, so it's been great, great, great
Thank
chatting with you
you.
today.
The
Really
feeling is
glad.
the feeling is mutual, and I've learned some things, and I really want to get into some more conversation with you about a couple of the groups that
Okay,
tell me about.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So it was great, great seeing you, and thank you for joining me. And I'll definitely be in touch because I'm going to introduce you to a couple of things.
Okay. Good.
All
And
right, I love
you take
you.
love you too. God bless
Okay,
you. Keep you well.
thanks. Take care. Thank you for joining me on Conversations with Reverend G. I'm here every Monday night at 8 p.m. on WEMS Radio. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. So join me every Monday night with Conversations with Reverend G, with guests from all walks of life, with different perspectives, with different resources. We come and we share with you in hopes that we can inspire you to live your best life. And I'm all about accessing that joy and living your best life with grace and ease. And you can find me every day on Facebook as Rev Granetta Mason and on Instagram as Rev Granetta. Follow me and get inspirational messages to support you throughout your day. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I will see you here again next week. Take care.